It's showtime, folks.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Into the Music. I see you have my splendid co-conspirator, Andy. Andy, how you doing?
I do well. Just came to co-conspire with you, my friend.
Welcome to the pleasure dome. And I've got something which may tickle your funny bone, or any other bones, I think. I've got a rip snorter of a track for you.
You got a rip snorter?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay, I came to the right place. Because I'm trying to get my snorter ripped. Let's do this.
It's a rip snorter with ice and a slice. And,
well, how can I turn that down? That sounds too appealing to me. Please.
The correct response is very nice.
Oh, of course it is. It's lyrical. Very nice.
Every time a barman goes ice and slice, you go very nice.
Okay.
Do
totally
that,
noted.
and your life will be enhanced. You'll find that women will find you irresistible, and men will want to beat you.
That's always been the goal. It really has.
Yep. Yeah. So, have you heard of a chap called Johnny Harris?
It sounds like such a common name that I want to say yes, but I have no idea if I have or haven't. I
don't think so.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
Okay. So I've got a track for you. It's called Stepping Stones.
Stepping Stones. Okay. I'm ready to step into the stones here then.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll send you a link. Go immerse yourself, and we shall see you anon.
All right, let's go. Interesting percussions. And some flute. It's as if the flutes just handed off the baton to the percussions in this marathon song we have here. This is, musically, this is just really, really awesome and really, I mean, it's an exhibition in musical talent is what it is, at least at this point. And we're only a minute in. We're 1/5 of the way through the song here. So let's see what we have in store, shall we? Okay, we had flute showing off, then we had percussion showing off, then we had some really fun, interesting guitar work showing off. And now it sounds like we've just stepped into the land of the organ, where it's now his time to shine. This is just hot potato with the lead role among the instruments utilized in the song. It is cool. It is very cool. Wow. Yeah, that was something. I mean, most of the time during that song, I felt like the guy in the thumbnail for it. Like, just like, amazing. Amazing. What a musical treat.
Welcome back. You made it.
I did.
And how are you changed?
Oh, not much has changed about me other than I just heard a really awesome song. I loved this. It was different. I mean, obviously, it took me a minute to realize I wasn't going to be hearing any lyrics or anything like that. And I tend to, obviously, I'm a pretty literal person, so I tend to gravitate towards lyrics. But I also am a mark for some really good music, especially really, really well arranged music. And this wasn't crazy in its arrangement. It was really like linear and groove based. But what was fun about it is that it was like musical hot potato. And every musician was standing in a line. And they just passed this hot potato after some interval of time where the bearer of the potato shined. And then they're like, all right. And they move it on to the next. And it's just this conveyor belt of kick-ass like lead parts from all the different instruments that are the collective in this arrangement or song, or dare I say band when the artist's name is just Johnny Harris. But I loved it. I have okay, so first of all, I just said it's a groove rider, and it's musically, it's genius. What I heard as I was like just sort of stream of consciousness, it was like flute, percussions, strings, guitar, organ, bass.
I've done the same list. It's like a shopping list.
It was like every time something stood out, I wrote down the instrument that was standing out. And now I think it was flute. I don't know if it was flute or clarinet or what it was, but it was a woodwind, and it sounded lovely at times, almost like right at a peak in the very beginning. It almost became abrasive. I was like, and then it just went into the song full bore. And I was like, okay, cool. So flute did its thing. Then it was like the flute.
Sorry, Andy. With the flute, and I think, like you're saying, I thought it was a flute, but he had this almost over breathing, before it went into the more levels, and it gave it that kind of distortion a little bit. It was flute through a slight fuzz box. The guy's obviously smoking 40 a day or whatever, but it was really weird and interesting. I thought, so it's worth mentioning. Sorry,
definitely worth mentioning. I don't hold that against you at all. Then after the flute, it felt like it was time for the percussions to kind of do their thing, and they started doing all this, like, I don't know, like a really tight tom. It sounded like it was getting hit, and it was doing all that fun stuff. And then after it was done, show it off. For a moment, it wasn't even a lead, but like the strings really started to resonate with me, like the elongated string sounds, and more of like, I don't know how many string instruments we're playing, but for whatever, maybe it's because I'm a bass player, the lower registered, like viola or cello was something that really I was hearing a lot of. And then after that, it went into guitar, just complete and utter madness. For like the last sound from a guitar you would expect with all these other instruments was the sound of the guitar that you heard. Loved that, because I wasn't expecting, like, all these other instruments are doing their thing, and it's like pit orchestra instruments. Yes. And then all of a sudden, like, weird fragmented guitar sound comes in. It's like, oh, I didn't even know you were invited. Welcome. And then after the guitar, it sounds like what I think is organ that kind of does a thing for a bit.
And then,
loved the organ stuff. And then they went and saved the best for last. Because and you know me, so you probably knew this was coming. You're not predictable
at all.
yeah, exactly. That sweet bass juice, freshly squeezed, sort of took us home on the
It's
latter
a great bass
song.
part as well.
Oh, great bass part. Doing all these like really fun scales, but then like hanging on a note and doing like speeding up, maybe doing like 16th notes or something like that. Really liked that. It was lead guitar-esque in its delivery. And I just really, really enjoyed it. It was the name of the album. You said the name of the song is Stepping Stones. Was the name of the album Movements? Yes. Okay. Because that's what this song was. It was just movements. It was like a linear movement from one instrument to the other. So I thought that was kind of an apropos title, if this is a song is any indication or a microcosm of what the album is as a whole. And I just loved the idea of, and it's not a genius idea, but I just love the idea of your turn, your turn, your turn. And just this, like, everyone getting to share the spotlight in this particular song. And I remember, obviously you're sitting there for like however long the song, like 5 minutes or whatever. I'm looking at the screen. It's really all I have to work with. And I'm seeing this album cover thumbnail. And I can't help but to think that at points during the song, I want to mimic that guy's face. Like, it was so good. Like, some of those bass lines are so good, and the guitar was so unexpected, and the flute is like hammering in your head. So yeah, I just thought it was good song. Weird. Didn't expect, if you had described the song to me, like in a very general, like a little general synopsis, I don't know if I would have been like, yeah, give me that. But I liked what I heard here, and it was just, a home run, man.
Excellent. I first came across this song trawling from vinyl years ago, and there's a guy I know called Fat Pete who unfortunately doesn't do records anymore. He had a very shady play. It was cool as hell, but he got shut down for other things. But he said, you got to listen to this. And it's just it's actually bizarrely, it is a proper album, but just called Funky Soundtracks 2. But it is inside, it's a white label, which is really odd. And it's got blaxploitation tracks on there. So this was actually used, I haven't seen the film, so I'm not sure it is I don't think it is. But there's a film called Fragments of Fear, which is a bit of a cult film from 1970. But there's stuff on here from Willie Dynamite and Dolomite as well. I mean, it's just there is some decent stuff on here. There's some stuff by Lalo Schifrin and Henry Mancini and some other stuff. Roy Ayers, which is amazing. But yeah, I just was blown away by this song, and it was a firm favourite when I was in my funkiest of funk grooves. And I pictured this collective arrangement. It was unusual to hear a full orchestra, but I thought this was music of black origin. Oh, how wrong I was. So the album, I'll grab it actually, is a brilliant album. As you say, it's called, and that is him, and it's like about 3 exposures of him. So you got his eyes.
I saw that they were like laid over with different amounts of exposure going on there.
That's him conducting. So there you get the conducting hands, and it's a mixture of cover versions and his own stuff. So this is one of his own creations. But to really kind of understand it, so he does a version of "Give Peace a Chance." He also does a version of "Something," the George Harrison song. You also Light My Fire, Wichita Lineman, and an amazing funky stroke psychedelic version of Painted Black, which has to be listened to believed. So I'll tell you a bit about him. He's Scottish, white, middle class. He was born in Edinburgh in 1932. So he was originally a trumpet player in a sort of big band. And then he went on to sort of beat groups, and then he progressed from there to become a conductor, an arranger and producer. So through the 60s, he worked for a record label called Pi Records, which is really old school, but you pick up a lot of their 45s and stuff, and the sort of slightly orchestrated stuff is on there. And he would do arrangements for loads of artists. So he worked with Tudor Clark, Nancy Sinatra, Shirley Bassey, Tom Jones, Engelbert Humperdinck, and Lulu. When Lulu won the Eurovision Song Contest, he was conducting the orchestra that was backing her. He then worked for the BBC, and he was musical director for many things, including what they called light entertainment. So you had these sort of, called variety shows or whatever, but they'd always have, even like the comedians who did their sketch shows would have a song and dance number, and they'd all maybe have like house dancers that did a song as well. And so he would do all the music for that. And then he was persuaded to do his own solo album, which Movements is the result. And it's just amazing. I've seen some clips of him with Lulu doing a show, and he's just got the whole orchestra pit there, and he's just conducting away like a maniac. And he seems a very unassuming guy, but he's got some serious musical chops. He moved to the States in 1972. And was based in Vegas for a few years. So he did for a short time work with Elvis in 73. He also turned him down quite a few times as well, which I think one of the books that was written about him was called The Man Who Turned Down Elvis Twice, which I think is quite a nice title. He worked with Paul Anka for a long time in the 70s. And also he had a close connection with Linda Carter. So he did all the music for Wonder Woman, the series in the 70s. And she was probably my first boyhood crush. Pretty much the perfect woman for my reckoning when I was 8 or 9, and it hasn't really changed much since. But I didn't realize this about Linda Carter, but she used to do sort of these huge variety specials, and he would do all the music for them as well. He also did the music and the original part of the theme tune for Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, which is another TV show from the 80s, I think, or late 70s, 80s. And he did the music for that show as well. And he did various other projects, carried on. And he died in 2020, aged 87, sadly from lung cancer. But he's a fascinating guy. And then this track in particular, it's like you, I wrote down my little shopping list. I didn't quite have it as a hot potato in my mind, which probably shows how my mind was. I saw it as like the boys in the island from Lord of the Flies. I've got the conch. No, I've got the conch. No, like that. But yeah, the guitar for me was just incredibly unexpected. I don't know. I'm not familiar with all the technical terms. I think there was a bit of flange going on there before the wah-wah, but it just sounded incredible. I mean, there's that 60s sort of psychedelic influence, but there's amazing swing and groove to it as well. And I used to play this to my mates in the early 90s, and they would lose their shit to this. They would absolutely go mad. And I've seen it being played in a club and people go mental dancing to this. You can imagine.
Yeah.
Apparently it was used in a commercial, I think for Levi's, but that passed me by. I never saw it. Normally anything that's in a Levi's commercial goes, viral, and mental, but no, I never saw it. But yeah, it's a great unexpected little gem, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Gem is a perfect way to describe it, because there's no way like I even would have stumbled across this. I can't imagine. So the fact that you somehow did through serendipity or happenstance or whatever you want to label it as,
or Fat Pete as he's known.
Yeah. Fat Pete, the serendipitous one. That is that was I totally, like, again, the guitar, which one of these things is not like the others is like the guitar, how the hell did you get here? But I'm so glad that you're here. You know what I mean? It's it was not jarring, but the same effect of like, what? But it worked. It absolutely worked. And you're right. There were two different effects being used, one of which was clearly like wah toward the end of the lead. But yeah, whatever was happening before that was innovative in its own right too. So it was, just great. The flute was like this, I don't know, like this friend that wouldn't stop pestering you. Like you liked it, but sometimes you're like, "Hey, flute, I know, I got it." But it was still cool in its own way. And all of these, like I'm thinking, how is he arranged this music? Who performed it or recorded it? Did he do all of that as well, or does he have like studio musicians with whom he works?
Yeah, no, he had his own orchestra, Johnny Harris Orchestra, which were with him. And there would have been members coming in and out, but they were with him for a number of years. I think perhaps the guitar player was a day tripper who just happened to, stumble in for the day and look what I can do.
Yeah.
I think you're right about the for want of a better word, the jazz flute is problematic, because it's so lovely and cool. But there is sometimes too much of a good thing. If you sit down and listen to a jazz flute sort of song or record, you start, it's not easy to hold it for a good length of time. Just
especially when it goes to that higher register, you're like,
yeah. But it is nice in little small bits,
Absolutely.
It's a bit like Roy Ayers with his xylophone, I love all that shit, but 8 minutes is probably stretching it, Roy,
And when the very beginning sort of culminated, like that little intro bit culminated in that really high sustained flute sound, that's what I was like. And then boom, it became part of a larger thing that it meshed with really well. But for about 3 seconds, I was like, all right. And then boom, it took off. And I was like,
I thought it might throw you at the start. Right? You think, what the hell have I let myself in for?
Only at that one blip. And in the reaction, you probably see it on my face because I have the worst poker face. But I do remember being like, And then, okay, cool. But yeah, no,
Okay.
I really enjoyed this one, and it's fun when you get one that that isn't necessarily billed as with all the traits that you would associate with a song you'll likely fall for. This was more like going in blind and coming out happy on the other side. So that's sometimes they're the best. They're the best ones, you know. So
Great, great. So, do you want to take us out?
sure. John, thank you so much for sharing this with me, man. If you have any more that you want to share with me in the future, please let me know. And if you guys out there listening, watching, also familiar with this band or artist or composer, please let us know your thoughts in the field below, and hit a like and a share. And if you're so inclined, please subscribe. Thanks so much for your time. And John, thank you for your time and your recommendation. I really appreciate it, man.
No problemo.
So that being said, we will see you all of you, on the next episode of Into the Music.
Okay.